Welcome to Live from My Drum Room and a special replay of episode 87 with my old friend Matt Sorum. The show originally aired on May 9th, 2022, but it's worthy of a replay. Matt's best known as a member of Guns N' Roses, replacing original drummer Steve Adler in 1990. And at the time, Guns N' Roses were the biggest band in the world. But Matt's had an incredible career outside of Guns N' Roses, including The Cult, which is when I met him in 1989, Velvet Revolver, Kings of Chaos, Billy Gibbons, Hollywood Vampires, and numerous other projects. In this episode, there are lots of great stories, including Matt's audition for David Lee Roth in 1985, joining Guns N' Roses, the Burning for Buddy tribute to Buddy Rich produced by Neil Peart, Matt's autobiography, Double Talk and Jive, and much more. So come along for the ride. I know you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you on the other side. And so without any further ado, I'm going to welcome my old buddy, old meaning from a long time, Matt Sorum.
What are you doing busting into my house on Zoom? What the hell's going on?
That's what happens when you leave your camera on. You never know who's gonna zoom in on you.
Wow, I'm just like hanging out here in Palm Springs next to my wife's closet, counting all the dollars I've spent on shoes and bags from years of drumming. This is the proof of the pudding right here.
That's what, working your ass off for the last 35 years is, that's what you get. You get to buy your wife some really nice stuff.
Well, you got to pay the piper. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
You want to have fun? Well, hey, guess what?
Well, you know what they say, happy wife, happy life.
Always. I learned that the hard way. It took me a while, but I figured it out finally.
It's good to see you, buddy, man. I appreciate you making time. I want to tell everybody that by the time this airs a couple of weeks from now, your book will already be out. But Matt is releasing his autobiography on May 10th. And when I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know this. I just felt like we were long overdue to do something like this. And then I found out you had this book coming out and the timing's perfect. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, well, no, I cancel everybody else but you. I'm like, well, I know that guy.
Thank you. I know you're probably doing a ton of these, and I appreciate it.
No, I'm serious. I'm not kidding you. I said,
wow.
John, we go back to like 89.
That's right.
The Cult.
That's right, man.
And there was a guy, Mike Morse, at Zildjian.
I know. Matt, I got to tell you, I actually looked up the date because I knew it was 89. I started at Zildjian that summer, that May. And I found the date. It was July something, 1989, Worcester Centrum, The Cult, and Metallica.
Yeah.
You guys are on tour with Metallica. And Timmy Doyle had called me ahead of time and needed some stuff for you. And as you said, our old friend Mike Morris had said, you got to check out Matt Sorum, man. I didn't know you then. I hadn't met you yet.
Yeah.
I was so blown away. I was so, Lars is Lars, Metallica is Metallica, but you stole the show. The Cult stole the show that night, as far as I was concerned. And I feel like we were like instant buds. You were so cool and immediately you had that big smile on your face. Hey man, thanks for coming, and
yeah,
it was the beginning of a great friendship.
Yeah, that was cool, man, because we were up in your neighborhood. Are you still living up there in that way?
I am. Yep. I'm still just outside of Boston. And not surprisingly, it was only less than a year later that you were asked to join Guns N' Roses, right? Or maybe even 6 months or something.
Just around 2 years, we did that tour, and I thought, man, this is great. I'm in a band, I'm on a bus, and I was happy. I felt like I had arrived, and then along came that other opportunity, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then it took off in a really crazy, wild ride. I always used to say, if anyone remembers old school Disneyland, there used to be what's called the E-ticket. And you used to go to Disneyland and you would get E, D, C. It was different tickets for different rides. And I'd say, I got the E-ticket for Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Not to be confused with Ginger Baker,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, things were off and it got really kooky. And Timmy Doyle came with me on that trip,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we took off as a team, and it was great.
That probably helped. I have to think that moving into, I mean, Guns N' Roses at that time, there was no band bigger in the world, and to have your kind of right hand man there with you had to be at least, help you through that kind of a transition from as big as the Cult was going
Well,
to
I
that
remember
band.
calling you guys and going, "I need really big cymbals. What's the biggest?"
Yeah.
I had a 24-inch ping ride. I don't know if
Right.
you remember, but that thing was massive.
Yes.
And in those days, we didn't have in-ears, man. It was just pure volume on stage, and Slash wielding like four Marshall stacks, and there was, I think, 8 Galen Kruger amps. And underneath my drum riser, I remember I had four 18-inch speakers for kick drum, just so I could. And believe it or not, as
Yeah.
crazy as this sounds, you're outdoors on these massive stadium stages, and I'm like, turn it up. And the
Man.
joke was, get me out of porta potty, because the low end was serious. And
Yeah.
but you kind of had to have it, and I remember calling you guys and going, hey, I want the biggest cymbals possible, because I needed the decay to last.
Yeah.
I wanted to go boosh. And because I remember I used to go see bands and cymbals would just go like boosh. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
that? It sounded like,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
guy's up there playing like a 16 or something, and he's in front of a big rock band. I'm like, that's not going to cut it, man.
No.
I
No.
just remember Bonham going, babo, boo, 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 boo. I'm like, that's
Whoosh.
got to be a 20.
Yeah.
It's at
Yeah.
least a 20-inch crash. So I remember going, the smallest was 18. I went up to 19, 20, and I actually had a 22 crash as well on the backside
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that
And you were
on the
playing,
end.
yeah, and you were playing A rock crashes too, I think, which were the heavier ones, and they
It's
were
always,
louder. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it
And
was all A's in those days. It's funny. Now I hear A's and I'm like,
I know. I
I'm a
know.
full K guy now. I'm like, I don't know if that comes with age or whatever, but now I hear an A and I'm like, oh, I have a couple still that'll break out for the right bell thing. Like,
Yeah.
I have my original Zildjian 15-inch hats, rocks.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and they were the ones I played on all those tours. And I remember thinking, guys were like, wow, you're playing 15s? I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I play 16s.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I play those 16 Ks.
The K Light 16, is that what
I
they're
got
called?
both. I got the
Yeah.
sweets and
Oh, yeah.
I got the K lights. And then, because I was playing with Gibbons,
Yeah.
and he really likes a wide, because it's a three-piece. He likes like a wider hat and a little bit slightly open, but kind of like filling up the space,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
with like a kind of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah. And I'm like, give me some 16s. And he loved them,
I'll bet. Yeah.
because he didn't really, if you watch ZZ Top now, like Frank Beard plays the hat's a little bit more open.
Hmm.
But back in the 70s, all those guys played the hat really tight.
Really tight. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
But for live, Billy's like, open up the hat, open up the hat. He didn't like that tight thing live.
Yeah.
So it was
But
more
like you say, it fills in a lot of space when you open those hats just a little bit. It just a little bit more air, a little bit more space.
yeah, if you think
Yeah.
about those great 70s records, everything was super dry.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
wasn't like big, massive reverbs and shit till the 80s, right? And
Exactly.
everything had its space, but the drumming was tight, thumpy drums,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I love that, because I would go back and study those early records of ZZ Top and play it exactly like that. Billy go, open up the hat a little bit. That was it.
What a
I
cool
would play the
man.
rest of it pretty
Yeah.
similar.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, when I saw you with the Cult, I remember, and I could correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong about this, but were you playing like two Chinas in front, like Terry Bozzio, or
Yeah, I loved Terry in those days. When Terry went into missing persons, every drummer in town, from Bissonette to me to everyone was like, dude, have you seen Terry Bozzio?
yeah,
And we'd all go out and watch Terry play when he had the crazy hair and
yeah,
he go,
man, yeah, 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 yeah.
and we all got big pangs. Yeah. And I used to say I had those pangs to deflect shoes opening from Metallica. It's like, but literally, I swear to God, like we would open for Justice for All, and it was like
Yeah,
in those days, you remember, you
I
saw it.
do. Yeah, I saw it.
It was 90%, 95% dudes that were like, and they didn't really care for the Cult, you know. We were like
Yeah.
a girl band, We were like, so some shoes did come up, and those pang symbols saved my ass. Quite a few times.
I
I was
think
like,
you told me this.
it's
I think
coming, you know. But yeah, I had two
uh,
pangs.
yeah,
I started out with like three rack toms,
I remember that. Yep.
and by the end of the tour, I was like, I'm going to strip it down and go to one rack, and I simplified my whole setup for my career going forward.
So you had already when by the time you got in Guns N' Roses, you had changed your setup to what you ended up with, the like you say, the more simplified. Because when I saw you had exactly, you had three rack toms, maybe two floor toms,
Yeah, always two floors.
the
Yeah,
two Chinas, and you reminded me. I mean, in a like a not in any way copying Terry, but you were I could tell he was an influence in some of the stuff you were playing, and
it's
you
all that. Yeah.
incorporated that. Yeah, yeah. And the
I
the
mean,
Cult's so straight, so sort of like straight ahead, but you were incorporating some cool shit, like some really
yeah, double
technical
bass
stuff.
drums were not acceptable with the Cult, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
a story in my book where I auditioned for David Lee Roth and Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan, the early version of the band that Greg Bissonette ended up getting. All these
yeah,
drummers went down to SIR to rehearse or audition.
right.
And I remember going in there, and it was like Mark Craney, and remember Mark Craney
Oh yeah, man, sure.
from Gino Vanelli, and
Yeah, Jethro Tull,
oh, so great.
great
And all these
drummer.
guys were in line. I'm like, I'm going home. Like this is like it's out of my league. And I remember going in there and Steve Vai, there was a double bass drum kit that they had rented. And I went and sat down behind the kit and I actually picked up one bass drum and moved it. And Steve Vai goes, what are you doing? I go, I don't play double bass. And he went,
Oh
well,
man.
one demerit, right? and, and so I ended up playing. I grew up with Ian Pace and like Bonham, and it was all about one pedal.
Yeah, yeah,
And I ended up not getting the gig, obviously. And out of that, I ended up going on to play with Ed Mann, though, the vibes player from Frank Zappa's band.
I
Steve
didn't
said,
know.
hey, I got this drummer. I think he'd be really good for you guys, which was real outside shit for me. It was,
Oh yeah,
but I was into like Return to Forever, and I loved Al Di Meola, Lenny White, and Billy Cobham.
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I would, I can't say I'm there with that anymore, but when I was younger, I was pretty well versed in a lot of that flam accent fills. And
Well,
so anyway, I ended up playing with
yeah.
him, but then I went and I'm like, shit, man, I better woodshed my double kick playing, right? So I got a double bass kit. I remember it was a Tama kit, and I don't remember how I got a hold of it, but I basically sat in there all day and just right. I was like, and I went in to audition for the Cult, and I set that big kit up, and they walked in and went, no double bass. So I went, oh man. At
I got
that
this
point,
shit down.
yeah. At that point, I picked up the bass drum again, moved it, set my setup the way and then I went. That's when I discovered the double pedal. And that was early days, DW.
Yeah.
I believe it was a DW double pedal that I was using in those days, because I think early on I signed a pedal deal with Chris Lombardi and John Good and those guys. Like, I had a pedal deal.
Right.
Which was wacky, right? Might have done, let me see if I did all hardware in those days.
You might have.
No, I think I played Yamaha hardware because I was with Yamaha. And how that happened was, it's really funny. So I was managed by this guy, Howard Kaufman, who also managed Tommy Aldridge and the band Whitesnake.
Yeah.
So when I got the Cult gig, they said the drummer, this guy walks in, his name's Jimmy Ayers, very famous. You know him from Aerosmith camp.
Yeah, sure.
He came in, he goes, "Hey, mate, Jimmy Ayers, tour manager for the Cult. And I do Whitesnake, and we're going to get you a black Yamaha drum kit. You're endorsed. And whatever you want, just pick it out." So from that moment on, because of Tommy Aldridge, I was Yamaha endorsee. So when I went to GNR, I shifted straight over and I met Hagi-san.
Yes.
From Yamaha. And our old friend, Steve Edelson.
Yeah. Steve.
Rest in peace is him as well. Our old buddy, Steve. So Steve hooked me up, and then I was ready. I was like, I got Zildjian, I got my Yamaha, and then Remo Belli.
Yeah.
Took me on. And that was great.
You were representing.
Wow. I mean, I got like everything I need. And I go, I better call Zildjian and get a gong. That's what I need. I need a gong. And it's like, like growing up with Bonham and Keith Moon and those guys having gongs. I'm like, so rock and roll.
Absolutely.
Alex Van Halen. I remember I got a 38-inch gong. Big sucker.
In fact, I think at one point I came to see you, and when Timmy sees this, I think he'll remember it. Timmy Doyle, we're talking about Matt's longtime drum tech from back in the day, and I feel like you cracked it at one point, cracked a gong, and we used to import them in. I think Zildjian still does, imports them from Wuhan.
Yeah.
And sometimes we didn't have them in stock, and Timmy was kind of freaking out because you needed one. We didn't have one, and he's like calling me every day, and I'm going, Timmy, man, I don't know. It's like it's on the boat. It's going to be here, next week but being the good tech that he was, man, he was
on it.
He was on it. Yeah. And he was trying to find a way.
There were two versions of the Zildjian gong. There was the kind of like, I don't want to say it's more low quality, but there was.
I know the one you mean. Yeah.
I had that. That's the one I cracked. It wasn't Wuhan. Like Wuhan was like, wow. And you guys put the Zildjian name on it.
Right.
But I had the early version, and those were kind of, I'm not sure how they were cast.
We got those from somebody else too. Yeah. It wasn't from Wuhan.
I cracked it.
Yeah.
And, it's not like I'm the heavy rock guy, because I grew up in wind ensemble. I'm like, got to warm that sucker up, you know?
Yeah.
And it went. But the one that I had after that was the same gong I had for 30 years. And I cracked it on the very last show of the Hollywood Vampires in 2016.
Wow.
It cracked after 30 years.
That's a pretty long life, man. That's pretty amazing.
I was like, oh, it actually was very emotional for me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
I mean, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, gongs can last forever, but at the same time, moving it around and playing it, and I mean, that's
moving around a lot. That's the problem, is being picked up and thrown on stages. And
right.
I'd be like, I had a big anvil case for that sucker, that thing rolled deep. I mean, it was, but I ended up, I don't think I've replaced it yet, because now I go, hey, I'm bringing the gong. And they go, we haven't got the budget for that. Bringing a gong on a tour is like, okay, seriously?
That's, yeah.
You're
That's a
like,
big budget tour. Yeah, that's a real big budget tour.
yeah, back in the day, man, we had like multiple setups, of like I finally got rid of all those Anvil cases literally like a couple of years ago, and they were massive. I stored them for like 20 years, size of this house.
Yeah, I
I
know.
sold
Isn't
my
it?
timpanis. I had timpani drums. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I do. With the cult, you had like a
Two, they came out of the
percussion.
riser, and then I had one
Yeah,
next to me like Bonham. I had like a more of a small, I think it was a 28 over there. And then I had the big guys. And we used to do one part in the show where it came out. There's a song called Sun King. And I go boom, 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 boom. And it looked really cool. And then it went down and went away and into the massive semi truck. It's like one part of the show. But
yeah, yeah.
I ended up selling those to Josh Freeze when he was in Nine Inch Nails. But I kept them for years.
That's great.
Never
Yeah.
used them.
Yeah, but it's cool that you're talking about that because it was at a time when, like you say, there were like, whether it was budgets or like, if you said, I'm taking a gong and I'm taking timpani with me on the road, like they made it happen for you, right? I mean, that was how it was done back then, you know?
Well,
So,
compared to Tommy Lee, I was lightweight. I mean, could I imagine walking in and going, "Hey guys, I'm going to go up and down on a roller coaster, and it's going to be like two semi trucks full of drums," and be
yeah,
like, "Get
exactly.
out of here." I mean, I had a big drum riser. I had a massive drum riser, and I remember that was my world. Me and Timmy, we had a tent behind it, and I'd go down there, and I remember the one thing I wanted was, "Hey," I go, "let's do like a beach island bar kind of thing back here." It's like, "Can you get me like a really cool palm tree? Do like a tiki kind of thing." So when Slash would take his like 20-minute guitar solo, I'd come down off the riser into this tent. We had like tiki lights, and we'd be
That's so
mixing some
great.
cocktails. That was always around 3/4 into the show. So I could, have a few extra knowing we were coming towards the end, a little shot or something. Occasionally invite friends in, we'd have a little. So Timmy had
Yeah.
that all set up, and the riser was all mesh aluminum. So it was like metal, and the drums would be all in the same spot every night. So they were all built into this metal, every stand, but underneath it was hollow.
Yeah.
So all the speakers were under there coming up at me. And then on each side of the riser were these, basically I had my own PA. It was like
Yeah.
headphones.
I saw you a couple of times and it was unbelievable, the production that you guys
You
had.
came
I
up on
mean,
stage and sat on the kit and everything.
yeah, yeah.
And it wasn't
Uh,
a big kit, but it looked big because it was a simple setup. But I used big toms. I remember in
right.
those days, they were considered what they call concert toms or
Probably power toms, right?
power. They
Power
were
toms.
like,
Extra, yeah, extra depth.
my
Yep.
first was like a 14, but it was like 13 inches deep,
Yeah, yeah.
massive. And the kick was a big 24, but it was, I think, 18 deep. And then we had that huge Yamaha rack thing
Right.
with all the mics on it, and then the timpani and lots of little fidgety things. Like I had a little side snare
Yeah.
made by like Joe Montanari. Remember him?
Oh
Love
yeah.
that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Great
Joe
stuff.
Montan sat over there, and then some weird little like. I used to like to mess around with like jam blocks and a couple
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
funny little things that could. And then
Lots
on
of
the right, I
cymbals
mean,
too. Yeah.
Guns N' Roses was famous for cowbell. So
Yeah.
almost every song had a cowbell in it.
Right. Right.
And I remember thinking, is this the secret sauce? The cowbell.
The cowbell.
That's why it's a hit. It's the cow-
It's the cowbell.
I always tell people, I'm like, think about it. I go, think about the cowbell. Think about the hits. Is it subliminal? Is it something that simple that makes it a hit, it's the cowbell.
It's the cowbell. Honky Tonk Woman, cowbell. Hard Day's Night, cowbell.
American band.
Yeah, we're an American band, cowbell. Yeah.
I mean, listen to those intros. I was like, as soon as you hear Honky Tonk Woman and that cowbell part.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
People talk about these intros, these drum intros. They're like, oh, rock and roll. Yeah, okay. I know that one. But you think about setting up a song like that, like a Honky Tonk Woman. And it's just like, what?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I know you had a really long-lasting relationship with Charlie, and man, shit. I remember you telling me that story about when he called for the ride cymbal.
Yeah. He was just an amazing, it's one of those things, Matt, too, where like I grew up, he was my hero, as a kid growing up. So to get to know him, at such a deep level and become friends was, still something I kind of can't believe sometimes, you know what I mean? I think about it and I go, man, he was just like, he wasn't putting me on, the first few times I kind of thought like, is he kind of putting me on? He knows like I'm a big fan and he's just being nice, but he was just that nice a guy. He was just
No, you were
cool
just in the
guy.
club, man. You like, I met the guy once. He blew me off. He was like, yeah. But he liked you. It's
right.
like, it's weird. I'm like that with Ringo. He'll call
Yeah,
me. It's so strange. I'm like, I look at the phone. It's like Richard S. is calling, right? I'm like, are you kidding me?
that's
So
so
I
cool, man.
understand that feeling, because, it's just, you're just blessed. It's just like
Yeah,
you have that
that's right.
moment with the, and I think he's one of those guys that remembers, that you're the guy. I mean, the story you told me was he called you up at Zoltan and he goes, hello, broken my ride cymbal. It's a 20-inch with one rivet. And you're
Yeah, yeah.
like, and this is Mr. Charlie Watts. And at first you want to hang up, right? You're like, someone's messing with me, right? But that's how it started, right? Is
Yeah,
that a true
yeah,
story?
exactly. It was I got a hold of him through his late drum tech, Chooch McGee. I'd left a message at Ocean Way, and I told Chooch I had some old cymbals that I wanted to send him, some new old stock like vintage A's from the 40s. And Charlie called. I sent a letter explaining what it was, and Charlie called and said, "I'd love to try the cymbals. I've broken one, and it's a 20-inch swish with rivets all around it,
Oh, it
and
was a swish.
it was a
Huh.
swish, and but
I always thought it was a flat ride.
and he was using a flat later, years later. I might have told you that story where his flat ride started to develop some cracks, and he called one day and he was really concerned about it, and we made it was what he used wasn't a Zildjian, but we tried to clone it, and we got pretty close, but his tech was able to sort of save the flat ride that he had, but he then had a backup, and it made him feel a little more comfortable, that he had something just in case. And you know how that goes if you're
Oh, he played the same kit forever, right?
forever. Yeah,
And
forever.
the story I heard, he didn't change a kick drum head for like 10 years, right? Is that true?
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that.
Like, why change it? It sounds great.
Yeah. He used to talk about how, he'd compare old drums and old drum heads to like old shoes. Like they just feel better. Nothing fits better than like an old shoe. And
Yeah.
he was,
I mean,
he was a creature of habit like that. He was
God, I mean, I know those nights when the kit's just perfect. And
when
it's
it's
like whatever happened with that batch of drum heads. And I'm like, I'd say to Timmy some nights or other checks, don't change them. I love them.
yeah,
Like, yeah, but the snare's got a little bit of a thing in it. I'm like,
yeah,
it's okay. Like, I mean, traditionally, when I was hitting hard like that, maybe every 3 days, we'd have to change everything.
yeah, yeah,
But then along came, obviously a much different drummer than Charlie Watts. He was like more of a jazz cat, and wasn't killing them, but he
yeah,
just the tone was there, and it was him. my thing. I had to smack them, and
Right.
that we ended up going over to Remo and coming up with that. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in the early days, we were like basically the guys that came up with the Emperor X.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
because I
Wow.
was smacking through those things, and in the days of in that late '80s, early '90s era, it was pinstripes, man,
Yeah, sure.
for that flappy sound. That
Yeah.
it sounded huge in a stadium, but then that snare drum had. I remember I went to an Emperor, but it kept dipping in the middle.
Yep.
I was just playing big rock sticks and just so I'm like, well, you guys already have the CS dot. Why don't we try dropping a dot underneath? So we did that. And then I don't think it was ever spoken about that I took credit for that, or my drum tech at the time, Mike Fasano,
Yeah, sure.
when we were in the studio. But we
Wow.
ended up using it, and I kind of use it pretty much to this day.
It's a
Uh,
popular head too. That's
it's a thing, with drum heads. I always say to people, oh, this sounds dead, or it's too dead, or go around and tap it first. Check the tone. If the head's got tone, it's a good head. If it doesn't, if it sounds dead, got to move the plastic a little bit. Because in the old days in calfskin, that was a different theory. The head already had the tone.
yeah, yep.
They put it
That's
on
right.
there and you tweak it. But then with Remo coming up with all the way to glue it and everything, you still have to crack that glue. I would take them and, go all the way around and then pop them on, stretch them,
Yep.
get them going, and then go around and tune get as much tone as you could. Because I've seen guys throw them on there and just be like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no tone at all. And I was a sucker. I was a stickler for tone. Like a lot of people say they love my toms on all that GNR, but it was a doo, doo, doo.
Yeah. Well, what you just said, Matt, about like sometimes you tell Timmy or your tech, like, even though it's been a couple of days and the heads are a little beat, leave them on. Like, see, that to me is the sign of somebody who hears good. Like, you're not dictated by, oh, it's been 2 days, I got to change my heads no matter what. Which we know lots of guys that do that. They just go, well, doesn't matter what they sound like. It's been 2 days. I'm going to change them. But you were basing it on the sound. You were going, man, they sound too good. I don't want to change these heads. That's
Yeah, when you find a guy that can tune like that, I got a little bit spoiled because now I was in the big leagues.
yeah,
In the old days, when I was coming up in Hollywood, I had a Volkswagen, right? I had a VW. The front seat was taken out. Remember how you used to be able to take the back seat out and lay down seat
yeah,
in a Volkswagen Bug, and I had the
man,
kick drum was my passenger,
yep.
and then the other drums would sit in back. I would just shove them all back there, and that's how I got around from gig to gig. And I set my stuff up, and then later on, I got a '64 Rambler station wagon. I was like, man, I can carry. And then the guitar player would be like, can you carry my amp too? I'm like, no.
No.
But yeah, I mean, then when I got in the big leagues, I got a little lazy because I had Timmy. I mean, he was one of the greatest tuners, and
Yeah.
I,
Great
I
drum tech.
I walk on stage. We didn't sound check. We would show up in the big stadium shows and just walk up and do the gig, and I'd sit
Yeah.
down and like,
Yeah.
everything was just perfect,
Perfect.
you know. And then later on, Timmy's like a big production manager now, Lenny Kravitz and
Oh, I
Miley
didn't realize
Cyrus.
that.
Oh yeah, he's big now. I can't even get him in. He was with drum key. Are you kidding me? I don't touch that.
I thought he was still I knew he was working for Lenny Kravitz. He was drum teching for a while though, right? But
He
now
was.
he's
Then he became production manager.
production. Good for him, man. He deserves it.
I mean,
Great guy.
those guys. I mean, some of the great techs of the world. I mean,
I mean, he worked for you. He worked for Jimmy Chamberlain, Joey Kramer. He's worked for like the greatest drummers, you know.
yeah. After me, I think he went to Jimmy for a while. And then he went to Joey, and yeah, Timmy. Yep.
That tells you.
And let's talk Gretsch. I see your beautiful Gretsch drums back there.
Yeah, I've got 5 other Gretsch kits, vintage kits, but these are the 2 I have in this room, and that's the left-handed one is the one that I practice on, and that one over here uh, that's called what's it called? Black oyster, not black oyster,
Oh yeah, black
black
um
pearl,
or black diamond pearl.
black diamond pearl. Thank you, Matt. That's a
Yeah.
62 that kit. So 62
Ooh.
round badge. So
Would that be round badge? Ooh.
yeah.
So I got a funny story about black diamond pearl. So Hagi-san from Yamaha. I call Hagi-san. I go because I always played black drums, but I thought, man, going out. So fast forward to the big Guns N' Roses Metallica tour where we're doing stadiums. I think we played the big one there where the Patriots played.
Yeah, you did. You played in Foxborough. Yeah.
I call Hagi-san. I go, Hagi-san, I want to make black diamond pearl drums. He says, black diamond pearl. Okay, Matt. So we get to JFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., and we're doing pre-production. We've got like 2 days at the stadium, believe it or not, with full rigs.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And
yeah.
the drums show up in boxes from Japan, and we unbox them, and they're baby blue. And the crew's walking by, and they're like, "Hey, is there a girl drummer joining the tour? Let me know when these come out in the man style." I swear to God, I was like mortified. I was like, "Oh my God." I call Hagi-san. I go, Hagi, I said black diamond pearl, not blue diamond. They had the same diamond in it, but it was blue.
Oh.
I was like, oh my God. And we set him up, and I looked at him. I'm like, oh no. And I went to the lighting guy, and I'm like, is there anything you can do? Can you hit me with like, what kind of light you got? Can you turn these drums black? Timmy, what can we do? He's like, everyone's laughing. Anyway, I ended up doing that whole tour on those drums.
I think I remember. I didn't know the story, but I think I remember those drums.
Yeah, they were, in those days, that particular kit, I believe, was a recording custom, but I endorsed it, Rock Tour Customs.
Mm-hmm.
But I had that kit was made basically the same shells as like Steve Adler or a guy like that played. Right. Recording custom kit, it was called. And I believe that it was mainly birch shell, right?
That's right. Exactly.
And they were fat sounding drums. And the snare, I remember the snare, I had a 7-inch deep. It was a custom drum by Yamaha. It was wood. And also I played the Zildjian bell brass. Do you remember that sucker?
I do. Yes, absolutely remember that. Yeah. The Noble and Cooley.
I still have that. I got that. And then I got the new one from the girls from Craigie. And
yeah. The smaller one, right? I think.
Yeah, but the big one I got in like the 80s.
I remember that. Yeah. And did we have to replace the shell on that one time? I feel like Timmy might have called me once about that too. That
it was out around, wasn't it?
Yeah, or did it crack or something? Because some of them did.
Yeah, they did. You know what happened? It cracked right on the because I believe wasn't it
Noble and Cooley
in a collaboration with Noble and Cooley?
Yes, indeed. Yep.
It had big die-cast hoops.
Yeah.
Something happened where they put the lugs on, and a crack went across from one of the lugs.
Yeah, and it happened on a few of them, Matt. It wasn't, it was a semi-common. That was the first production run of those.
That drum was. I used it on the Cult almost the whole tour. Yeah, remember?
I remember it. I totally do, and I remember that. Yeah, great sounding drum. I want to jump backwards a second because something you said earlier, and I wanted to pick up on this. You mentioned because Greg's told this story a few times. Greg Bissonette, our good friend, and all the years I've known you, you'd never mentioned it, but I had Greg on my show last year, and he mentioned auditioning for David Lee Roth, and he said he was going in as you were coming out. or something along those lines. And he said, and I said, I didn't know Matt auditioned for David Lee Roth. He said, well, Matt didn't play double bass drums. And so I think Greg had played some double bass drums and made
Oh
a
my
mental
God.
note to himself like that. Okay. I think he wrote something out like I don't know, but like when he went in there, he was ready for it because of that information that you'd given him. I think as you were going
He
out, you're
was
going,
standing
yeah,
in line when I walked out.
yeah, that's what he said. And you were like, man, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get it, man. They wanted a guy that plays double bass drums. But you,
Literally, when I came out that door, there was Greg Bissonette and Mark Craney standing there.
that's
And
wild.
but no one knew it was for David Lee Roth.
Right. That's the other thing. Right.
We all got called by Steve Vai, and we were like, Steve Vai is that guy from Zappa.
Yeah.
So when I walked in, I went, it was very clinical. We were playing like crazy time signatures, and it was very Zappa school. Like
Yeah.
he was
Yep.
running me through the mill. Like, give me a 7/4. And I'm like, okay, Genesis Cinema
Yeah.
Show.
Yep.
You know, I'm like, I got that. Okay. Then he said something like, play 26/8.
Oh,
And I was kind of cocky, and I looked up and I went, why?
yeah. Why?
And then I said, I saw Billy Sheehan sitting on the couch. I go, God, I'd love to jam. Can we jam? We didn't jam.
Mm.
I played by myself. And it was probably the craziest audition I ever did. I've never had a situation where I had to stand there and Steve Vai was reciting on these notes and like running me through this whole school of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and at that point in my life, I was prided myself on being a pretty pure rock and roll guy.
Sure. Yeah.
But I looked at Greg Bissonette and I knew he had all those other elements
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
His school, North Texas State, and then Craney, same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And
So
that was,
you knew Greg from LA at that like you already knew who he was and
well, I was in a band
around
with his
town.
brother, Matt Bissonette.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And there was this whole contingency of guys, right, in the mid 80s. There was Pat Torpey, great drummer from Mr.
Great
Big,
drummer. Yep.
Greg Bissonette, and all these other guys. And then Matt Bissonette, and there was another bass player in town named Bob Birch, who went on to play with Elton.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
were kind of guys that would mishmash in other gigs. And me and Greg were the drummers at Disneyland as well.
Right. Right.
Which was Stan Freeze, Josh Freeze's father.
Yep.
And we would and Russ McKinnon. Remember Russ McKinnon?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
We were the guys that played Disneyland. And then we would all sub for each other on other gigs. We all had original bands, but Russ would call me and go, Matt, I got an original gig. Can you sit in for me at Disneyland? And we all knew Top 40.
Yeah.
So I go down to Disneyland and sit in for Russ. And then I sat in for Greg before. Greg sat in for me. Same thing with those guys.
That's so cool.
Greg would give me charts. And I'm like, oh, okay. For Miami Sound Machine? Awesome. Working for the Weekend by Loverboy. Greg had charted out. I'm like, coo, coo, coo. Cowbell.
Yeah.
No. Working for the Weekend. I'm like, Greg, I got this song. It's cool. Like reading it,
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember one time so there was 3 different stages at Disneyland, right? There was Tomorrowland, there was the big stage, they call it the main stage. Tomorrowland was the one that came out of the ground. You were like, and then we'd all run over and watch like Louis Bellson at Carnation out,
Oh man.
Buddy Rich. There was the jazz guys. So we'd all go, hey man, Louis Bellson's playing tonight at Carnation Village. And you go over there, it was like the ice cream garden.
Yeah.
And they'd pay Louis Bellson's band.
Wow.
And then Buddy was over there all the time.
Yep. Yep.
And then I met a very, very young drummer, Josh Freeze, at the age of 15, he was playing there.
Wow.
And I remember going, who is this kid?
Yeah. Yep.
And his father was the booker.
Right.
And his brother Stan Freeze and another brother.
Yep. Keyboard player, I think, right?
Yeah, he's in Green Day now.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
And then anyway, or Jason, I think his name is Jason Freeze. And his dad's Stan Freeze.
Dad was Stan. Yeah.
So anyway, that's how we all were around, And then everyone got great gigs. Like, but Greg took off with David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
And very closely after that, and close to that era, I got the Cult. So I was cool. It was the right band for me. It was the right band for him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I always say that to people. It's like, you get these gigs, you get certain gigs that are going to line up the rest of your career. I had opportunities to play with some bands. I'm like, I'm not sure if that's the right script for me.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yep.
not going to name names, but there was a couple of bands like, I think I'm just going to keep eating top ramen. I'm going to just, I'm going to, and
Yeah.
and then, when the Cult came, that set the tone for the rest of my career. That I'm this kind of drummer. I'm a rock drummer in this genre. And like, I think Guns N' Roses respected that I came from the Cult. It might not be the same way if I was in maybe a different genre of a band.
Yeah. Yep.
It can kind of come back to bite you.
And if I remember correctly, when you joined Guns N' Roses, it was because were you guys on a bill together and they saw you play and kind of, I mean, did it happen or had they seen you play somewhere? Was it that sort of
Yeah, they came out to the Universal Amphitheater.
That's what it was. Okay.
And I remember it's in my book. There's a whole chapter where they come rolling in. It was like a scene out of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's like,
Yeah.
it was like a cloud of smoke, Like,
I'll bet.
and at the time, the Sonic Temple tour was winding up.
Yeah.
We'd been out on a pretty long 1.5 year tour. And I remember going, man.
Yeah.
As a joke, I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, look at those guys, man. They look like fun. And literally not long after that, Slash tracked me down through Lars Ulrich, who I become quite good friends with. And at the time, I wasn't living anywhere. I didn't have a phone. It wasn't cell phones.
I know. Yeah.
You didn't call, so you didn't text somebody. It's like if you wanted to find somebody, you had to like call them on a landline.
Yeah. And find out where they were, and like you say, he had to do some tracking down, some Jim Rockford stuff to get.
Yeah. I mean, I remember getting the call from Mike Klink, the producer, and they called me and said, someone's going to be calling you. And I was like, I couldn't think of who it would be. And Slash called me up and invited me to come up. And, initially, and I've said this a bunch of times in the press and everything, I was just going to play on the record. And Steve Adler was going to come back. And then we just all hit it off. And it was weird because I was already in the Cult and I had a great gig and I loved that band. And a lot of people still say to this day that was like the perfect band for me. It was like my groove, But I remember thinking opportunity wise, I had to make the move. And they made me a member, which meant I wasn't a side guy.
Yeah.
I was a member of the band. I was in the photographs. I got a percentage. It was like all that kind of stuff. I was starting to learn my way through the business.
Yeah.
I can't say I did it perfectly, but I was like, okay. And so I remember taking Billy Duffy to lunch and telling him, hey, I got this offer. It was hard.
I'll bet.
But then years later, I went back and I rejoined the Cult.
I remember that too. Yeah. I remember seeing you like years later with him. Yeah.
We went back and I remember going back to them and going, you guys can't make me a sideman anymore. I was just in that other big band. And we just got to be a band. And they're like, okay, mate, well, you'll be an equal member. I'm like,
great. Yeah.
So I always say to a lot of drummers say to me, like, Matt, what did you do about negotiating your way into things? I said, well, if you don't ask, you don't get. So don't blow yourself out though. Be careful. It's like, it's a fine line.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, I think for drummers, it's hard because I think the old preconceived notion is that we're replaceable. It's going to be the first guy that's going to go, right?
Yeah.
We know we need the singer. We know we need the guitar player, probably. Bass player,
Mm-hmm.
Drummer, there's other guys.
Yeah.
So if you're a perfect fit and you feel like it's your band and the camaraderie is there and you guys have started maybe early together, that's a different situation. Then you have to just say, hey, I've been here huffing it with you guys from the beginning. But my situation jumping out of a band like the Cult into GNR was I already had a band. I had a bit of a negotiating tool there because
Yep.
I wasn't just sitting on the sidelines going, hey, I don't have a band. So the worst case scenario was they say no, and I go back to playing in the Cult. But they were like, we want you. And it was great. They've opened their arms to me, and I had a great run with that band.
Yeah, you did. I'm gonna say, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but it started a lifelong friendship with Slash because you guys continue to play together and later bands and a collaboration anyway. I mean, like just there were like other things that you guys worked together on.
Yeah,
And
well, we had Velvet Revolver, which was a big success for us.
yeah, huge.
And that was an interesting time because we all went through periods about exploring our musical after being in this massive machine of a band.
Yeah.
I remember when we broke up in the 90s, it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do now?
Right.
I remember getting some calls for bands, and I was like, I got to figure out how to adjust to this. And I remember I got into doing film scores. I started dabbling in producing. I actually had some success producing.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
to be honest with you, I wasn't sure if I could pull it off again. I was like, well, that was a fun run. I mean, how am I ever going to get to that level again? I don't think so why don't I just, try some other stuff, do some other stuff. And then came full circle. I got back in the Cult. We got a big record deal with Atlantic. And then, Slash and Duff and myself kind of stayed close and did stuff, but not in a big way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in the early 2000s, we decided it's time for us to do a band. Let's do a band. And we ended up signing with RCA, and one got 3 Grammy nominations, won a Grammy, and sold about 4 million records.
Yeah.
And cool. Had a really good, that was a quick lightning in a bottle run though. It was like, boom.
Yeah.
And I remember when we had a hit, which was a song called Slither, which we got the Grammy for. Right. It was like literally going from like hanging out, waiting to get going again to like, it was on fire. Like, like we were on a press tour for like 3 months, and we were like on every magazine, and it was like the switch went on, and we were like it. And it was exciting. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe we did this. And it was probably, for me, one of the most exciting things that ever has happened in my career, because we were in our 40s. A lot of naysayers in Hollywood were like, I don't care what band those guys were in. It's kind of like they're getting a little older. Rock 'em, really? And that's the kind of stuff you deal with in the business of music.
Yep.
And we proved them all wrong. And that was a real feather in our cap. And we looked great. We all got in good shape.
Yeah.
And it was all like, this has got to be. And I was fired up like a kid again. I was like, I felt like I was 20. It's like, And it worked even harder, because they always say, the old expression is, the older you get, the harder you have to work. And we did.
Yeah.
We worked hard at our appearance. We worked harder than ever. And I will give the props to Slash and because we were at rehearsal every day at 12 noon. We rehearsed 6 to 8 hours a day. We were writing songs. It was like boot camp.
Mm-hmm. Dedication. Yeah.
And I'll say that to any young musician. They'll ask me, what do you think, man? I go, work your ass off.
Right.
It's not about your computer.
Yeah.
This is like, go play all the time with other guys. And maybe, if you're lucky, I think Kobe Bryant said it. He's like, if everybody else is practicing twice a day, I'm practicing 4 times a day. And we did. And it wasn't like, it wasn't even about like being the drummer that had all the chops in the world. It was more about being a band that had the chops together.
Yeah.
I think Charlie Watts would say that. Charlie
Exactly.
Watts is the guy that's the band. He's not doing anything fancy. He's just cool. And Charlie was the foundation of the Stones, man. He was like, it all started there. Like you said, Honky Tonk Woman or whatever he came into, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that unit of a band is what made the magic. So I think my career came up with that sort of mindset. Like, if you find the magic, just nurture the magic and just work on getting the best songs, you know.
That's great advice, Matt. It seems so simple, but in this world of like YouTube and where you can post drum solos all day and social media, it's just so simple that the importance of playing with other musicians, man, just like learning how to play in time with a bass player and having it feel good and groove and I was going to point out too when you mentioned replacing drummers. I think you'll agree with this. You sing. You're a great singer. I mean, I've seen you in all your bands sing backups, and that's a great. It gives us drummers more value. It's not like you can just easily replace a singing drummer. When you're vocal.
Right. Well, I always see. I came up in the school of like you had to have extra attributes to offer.
Yeah.
So, for instance, like if I were looking for a guitar player in a band or bass player, we'd say, "Hey, does he sing?"
Yeah.
We were singing harmonies and background vocals, and so I say to young musicians, I say, "Hey, try to have as much stuff to offer as possible." I mean, if you can sing, cool. That's just another, thing you can offer the group. And I enjoyed singing in all my bands, plus gave me a real good sense of meter and like tempo, because if you're playing too fast and the vocals doesn't fit within that tempo, you're not listening.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at drummers like Ringo and some of those great drummers that set up for the vocal, and I've talked to Ringo about this. He said, well, listen to the vocal. Don't step on the vocal.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't step on the vocal. Like, if you're listening to the vocal, you're going to put some stuff around that vocal or launching into that chorus and setting up that big chorus. You're going to set it up really cool with a fill, and then boom.
Yeah.
And then, the solos come and build it, and then bam, then you're up on the ride and you're like, it's all about the dynamics and the tempo of the song. And I pride myself on being just a song drummer. That's all I am. I'm not like fancy pants, I'm like, I can do some stuff, but it's not why I get hired to play with bands. I think you look at me like, Matt's got great meter. He looks pretty good. He's not a bad looking dude. He's like, it's like
solid, he hits them right.
He hits them. He keeps good time and it's great dynamics and drive the band. Your job as a drummer is to drive the band.
Right.
You're in the driver's seat. And so guys are out there making fancy pants videos on YouTube. I'm like, you see these kids and I'm like, oh my God, I could never, ever play any of that shit.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
But the problem with that is when they go to play for some big artists and they're doing all that shit, they're probably going to turn around and go, don't do any of that.
That's right. Exactly.
All that stuff you just did, don't do any of it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I got to point out too to everybody what you just said, and I know we're getting close to the time on this thing, but I want to point out, if people haven't heard you play on the Buddy Rich Memorial, the Buddy Rich big band record that you did in the 90s.
Yeah.
You played some ridiculous shit. And I remember we came in, it was while the Modern Drummer Festival was happening It was like happening because you played at the festival that weekend. I remember that. A bunch of you guys did. And then Neil Peart was producing it at a studio in New York City. A bunch of us came in. I remember I came in the studio when you were tracking. And I remember I was in there watching you, and I think you and Kenny might have recorded the same day, possibly. You and Kenny Aronoff.
It was crazy.
Yeah, and I've never heard you play like that, Matt. I'd never. And then I saw you play at the actual concert that they did in New York, like maybe later that
Me
year.
and Kenny and Omar Hakim and Rod Morgan.
Yeah.
Neil Peart was there.
And Neil Peart was there, and we hung out at the Paramount. That was one of the craziest hangs
As
of our lives.
I mean, as you know, John. Oh yeah. Oh my God. I don't even think that's in the book.
It shouldn't be, because people could lose their jobs maybe as a result.
We got hammered.
Oh man. You were going to say something, but
What was our old buddy? What was our old buddy from Zildjian? Lenny.
Oh, Lenny DiMuzio. Rest his soul. Lenny was there that night.
God, I got him hammered that night.
I know you did. You got us all hammered. Okay, if you're going to tell us, so everybody watching this, Matt, you were buying rounds of Jägermeister for everybody. I mean, it was just like
that was in a bad way. Then it was bad. That's a lot of that's in the book. When you read the book, I go a little off the rails, and the wheels come off a little bit, but.
Well, you were a generous guy. You were always like a generous.
It happened.
Yeah.
But I love that night. I remember that night. I was going to say real quickly, that was an amazing, amazing opportunity as a drummer that maybe wasn't recognized as that style of drummer. So I got the call from Kathy, who I'd met at NAMM or one of those. And she calls me and says, Matt, we'd like to have you on these Buddy tribute records. And I was like, at first I was like, oh my God, it was that call you get where you're challenged, and initially fear sets in. And she says, Neil Peart's producing. And I'm like, oh, even double fear. Like, oh. And then she starts naming off the list of people that are on the record. Steve Gadd. Oh,
Simon
Omar Hakim. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dave Weckl, these guys, Vinny Caliuta. I'm like, why me? Because we want a rock guy.
Yeah.
We want a rocker.
It was smart. It really was.
And then I go, okay, let me listen to Buddy's stuff. Okay. Early 60s. Bula Witch. Funky Jam. Had like a kind of a funk rock beat. It had swing, but it was rocking, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And he explored that. He went from his big band swing era into the 60s, started dabbling in all different rhythms.
Different stuff.
And I'm like, I'll do Bula Witch. I can bite that off. And
killed it.
I remember walking in, and Dave Wackel's walking out, and he's holding like his sticks, and he's got his thing, and he goes, you got your charts? And I actually had a Sony Walkman on, and I was listening to Bula Witch. And I go, no, but I got this Walkman. And I remember we set up at the power station in New York, and I walked in, and the whole band was there. And they were looking at me like, all tattooed and stuff. I'm walking in, like I'd been up all night, a little puffy, drinking too much beer. Because I was nervous. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
I was on tour, and I remember I flew in it, got picked up by Buddy's driver in his old limo.
Wow.
And he's like telling me these stories. I've been Buddy's driver since the 60s, blah, blah, blah. So I'm in this old limo driving through New York. And anyway, we go upstairs, and I walk up to the band, and Steve Markison.
Oh, yeah.
God, listen to the solo he did on that. It's like, guitar players can listen to that solo and interpret some of the greatest notes that they could take into this.
Yeah.
And anyway, I walked up to the band. I go, can you guys give me like 4 bars at the top? And they go, well, 4 bars, huh? And I go, and I remember it kicked in, and the horns were coming at me. It was like so power that my initial reaction was, listen, play.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was like listening to another musician in a rock band, except it was coming at you like a freaking freight train.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Ba-da, ba-da, da, 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 da,
That's
da, 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 right? And my limbs were just like, I was like, what the hell's happening? I looked over, there was a poster of Buddy on the wall. And I
oh
said,
man.
thank you for possessing me. I'm not you. I'm never going to be you. Nobody's you. But Neil walked out and he said, wow, we got it. I said, what?
One take?
One take, yeah.
One take.
First
Holy
take.
shit. I was going to ask you how many takes. Wow.
We did an extra. He goes, let's do one for safety. But I think that's the one. I was like, I looked at Neil. I'm like, I'm looking at Neil going, you're kidding, right?
Wow.
I missed a couple things. It was a little like ramshackle in a couple of spots, but in general, it's almost like, well, yeah, like a nice magic to it.
Yeah.
The
I was there when you did. I remember, I know I either heard the playback there or I was there when you did it, but, and I remember honestly how blown away all the guys in the band were with you. Cause I think, you know, without sounding like they were being judgy, I think they probably
We're being
saw the
judgy.
tattoos. No, I don't know. I don't think they realized that you'd be able to pull it off the way you did. You know, I think they thought, well,
Yeah,
it's going to be good to have him. He's going to help sell a lot of records because he's a famous drummer.
yeah.
And
But
you
yeah,
know,
I'm sure there was preconceived notion. I mean,
yeah,
when you're a rock guy, especially from a band like Guns N' Roses, you know, there's a thing that's like, man, do these guys play good? Are they,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
can they play? Or, and I think, you know, I've morphed into so many different styles of music. It's like, for me, it was like, I'm just going to listen and be more
Yeah,
as best I can be inside the music. You know, it's like, it's almost like the way I have to play for Billy Gibbons now. I go back to a whole different style. I'm actually playing a style of music that I grew up with. I cut my teeth down in Louisiana in a blues band, 3-piece blues band when I was 19.
wow, I
You know,
didn't
I
know
was
that.
playing the
Yeah,
blues down there and Texas shuffles. And then that kind of, I didn't need it for 30 years.
yeah,
I didn't use it. I played big rock shuffles, but I didn't play the Texas shuffle.
yeah, yeah,
So I remember going, okay, here comes Billy. I better go woodshed this, which, as a lot of drummers know, that Texas stuff isn't the easiest shit to play. And it's more subtle.
no,
It's like there's subtleties. It's not big rock at all.
that's right.
And
It's almost like the opposite, Matt. Really, when you think about it, it's like you're playing all those like ghost notes with your left hand, and you know where you're playing like these big slamming, you know, 2 and 4 quarter notes with rock. You got to play all those little ghosty things, you know.
yeah, I think for a lot of drummers, like if you think about stylistically on drummers and guys that are jazz drummers and they're so great at playing jazz, they can't launch into maybe what I do. And
Right.
the same says, in the same respect, it's very difficult for me to go back into the subtleties of what they do.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's why we all have our sort of unique position. You know, it's like there was a point in my life when, you know, I was listening to, like I described, I was listening to Al Di Meola and Return to Forever and Lenny White. And my friends came over and they're like, Matt, you can't go into jazz fusion, man. You got to play Sabbath with us, you know? And at that point, I had to make sort of a overall decision about this is going to be who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of focused my, you know, what style I was going to be into.
Yeah. Your direction. Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I think maybe drummers look at it like, well, it's just straight rock. I mean, it's really like, you know, it's not a bit a lot to it. Meat and potatoes.
Mm.
But ask Phil Rudd, he'll tell you.
That's
I mean,
right.
there's no one like Phil Rudd. When
Ah,
Phil Rudd's not in AC/DC, in my opinion, it doesn't sound like AC/DC.
yeah. Exactly. And
John
just right.
Bonham. John Bonham. Okay. Did he have elements of R&B? Did he have a lot of swing? There was jazz in there. Yes. Bill Ward, jazz drummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So still, I'd say to young rock drummers, go listen to all that shit. Listen to Gene Krupa. Listen to, these guys. Take everything that you can from everything. It's like a smorgasbord.
Yeah. That's great advice. And I know you've gone a long time, and I really appreciate it. and you probably need a glass of water, but I want to just ask, yeah, good, have some water. The name of the book?
It's called Double Talk and Jive.
Double Talk and Jive. I love it.
And the reason it's called Double Talk and Jive is it's a song off Use Your Illusion that me and Izzy Stradlin recorded. And it starts out on the floor tom. And I remember thinking, that just basically says it all. Double Talk and Jive.
Double Talk and Jive. I have, I should have got these ready behind me in that pile of records that I've yet to put on my wall down here. I have both Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 platinum, multi-platinum records that you sent me.
Nice.
Many years ago. You came to my office at Zildjian. This would have been, I'm thinking like early 90s, because those records came out in 91, 92, 91. And you were on tour. I came to see you at the Boston Garden. Then you came to Zildjian, and you looked in my office and you said, "Where's your Guns N' Roses records?" And I said, "I don't have any." And you made a phone call. I swear to God, you made a phone call. And like you said, in those days, we didn't have cell phones. Like, you called a number, and like 4 days later, they showed up.
Wow.
And I so appreciate that. And I'm sorry next
I
time.
like how you have them all leaning up there. It looks cool.
Well, thanks, buddy. They're there, and I'm proud of them.
Well, a recording studio here in the desert, I'm going to have a full drum room. It's going to be sick. So I have this Duco Gretsch kit that they made for me.
Beautiful.
They're Brooklyn's.
Yep.
Great recording drums. I just did a soundtrack for a movie with the Shooter Jennings, Waylon's kid, on those Ducos. And I'm like, whoa, they're not older drums, but they sound killer.
Yeah.
Got a big Duco kit. And then I'm going to have a little broadcaster kit that's green. It's a Cadillac green. I'm going to have a small kind of setup that can do thumpy, like Ringo kind of stuff. And then I'm going to have the big rock kit out here in Palm Springs.
Beautiful.
And we'll be able to, if you're ever swinging through town, come check it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But Matt, thank you so much for being here today with me. I so appreciate it.
I'm so happy to see you. I've always loved you, man. And
thank you.
You're really one of the early supporters of the Matt Sorum project.
Absolutely, man. I feel the same way about you. We met when I was just kind of on my way into the business. So, I feel like we really bonded immediately, and here we are, all these years later.
We've been a pretty good life so far.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, man. I'm really glad to see you, and we were able to reconnect and, talk shop, drums, for music, life. Great.
Likewise too. Well, hang tight. I'll end the recording, and thank everybody for watching. A big hand for Matt Sorum.
As Ringo would say, peace and love, peace and love.
Peace and love, peace and love. And don't forget to pick up Matt's book. It'll be available by the time you see this. And it's Double Talk and Jive, and it's probably going to be on Amazon and anywhere you can find it. So great. All right, well, hang tight 1 second, Matt, and we'll end the broadcast. Thanks again, buddy. Great to see you.
Nice.
All right, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also download the podcast on all podcast platforms. And I'm excited to tell you that Live from My Drum Room has been ranked #1 best drum podcast for the second straight year. So thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. And I want to invite you to check out livefrommydrumroom.com, my website, for upcoming shows, and also for information on ordering Live from My Drum Room merchandise, t-shirts and hoodies. 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship I've created with the Percussive Arts Society. There's also information on ordering merchandise in the show notes. And you can email or text me at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com. sorum.com. So remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you again real soon.